Welcome to Lesson 1 of Unit 2, Strengthening Your Brain Like You Strengthen Your Muscles. In Unit 1, Thinking About the Thinking Brain, you learned how your brain thinks thoughts and how, with a growth mindset and grit, you can help your brain work better, think faster, and in the end, you become smarter. In Unit 2, Strengthening Your Brain Like You Strengthen Your Muscles, you'll learn more about growth mindset, grit, and their relationship to your brain. And you'll hear true stories of how the brain changes and grows stronger with effort, practice, and challenge. So, to get started, let's watch a video that will give some review of the information that you've already learned and give some new information about your brain and learning.
You would not be here if you weren't interested in learning, and neither would I. But here's something we haven't learned about together. Learning. The ways in which we acquire and retain knowledge, which is the very definition of learning, is really a science in itself. And like any other discipline that involves the study of the human brain, is practically still in its infancy. Just 20 years ago, most scientists believed that once we reached adulthood, our brains were pretty much fixed. Not that we were incapable of learning anything new exactly, but the assumption was that our brain's development phase was over. And now it's pretty much there to remind our hearts to keep beating and occasionally let us remember where we left our phone. But thanks to huge advances in things like functional brain imaging, we have a clearer picture than ever of how our brains work, and we're beginning to observe some wonderful things. For one, we now know that the process of learning actually alters the structure of our brains at the cellular level. And what's more, it turns out that our brains never stop changing to make room for new information. People often compare the human brain to a computer, but imagine a computer that could actually grow new circuits as it acquires new facts and associations, and you have a much more awesome comparison. This is the gift known as neural plasticity. You might think of plastic as being stiff and cheap, but in biology, plasticity refers to the capacity of living things to mold themselves to new conditions, and our brains are great at it. For one thing, your brain cells, or neurons, are always changing their connections to one another to meet changing demands. Each of your neurons consists of a central body with spindly dendrites and a long axon stemming from it. The neuron transmits electrochemical signals to other brain cells through its axon and receives signals through its dendrites via connections where the cells meet, called synapses. When you're born, each neuron in your brain has about 2,500 synapses connecting it to other cells. But by the time you're 3, and you've become just a sponge of fascinating new information, like what sound a piggy makes and where your mom's face goes when she hides it behind her hands, you have 6 times as many, up to 15,000 synapses for each neuron in your brain. Meanwhile, your neurons experience all kinds of new growth as you continue to soak up new information, like how to drive, how to solve for X, and how to get through that one really hard level in your favorite castle smashing game. Here, the key to learning is memory, because you need to retain that information in order to apply it in the future. So your brain cells can change in different ways depending on how long you remember what you've learned. As you stockpile data in your short-term memory, for example, the structure of your existing synapses has been found to change, with more and stronger dendrites growing to reinforce them. So for info that you retain for just a short time, like how to destroy digital castles using rocks and fire, you don't need to sprout whole new connections. Just beefing up the existing ones you've used so far will help you master the game just fine. But when it comes to important stuff like the learning we do at school, or hopefully the stuff you learn here on SciShow, your neurons actually forge entirely new synapses over time as you relearn, re-remember, and reuse the information. This is how your brain builds the long-term memory you need to retain the learning you're doing right now at work and at school and turn it into a lifetime of applied knowledge. So I said it before, and I'll say it again. Take care of your brain, and odds are it'll take care of you.
As you learn about strengthening your brain in this unit, remember what the narrator said about the process of learning. Learning causes our brain to change by growing more connections between neurons and creating new synapses so that we can continue to learn more and more information and become smarter and smarter. For example, what is something that you used to not be good at, but now you are? Maybe it was dance, computers, video games, sports, music, or something else. What did you do to learn and improve? How did you become so successful at whatever it was that you used to struggle doing? Who would like to share with the group? Now let's take a look at how some successful people became successful at what they do. Research tells us that it takes effort, strategies, and help to really improve at whatever it is we're trying to do. Some people pick things up quicker than others and seem to have a natural ability. However, not all of these people end up succeeding. The difference is that only some of these people put in a great deal of effort, adjust their strategies, and seek help from others. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a famous book about highly successful people, and in it he points out that the famously successful musical group, the Beatles, were really not that good when they first started. They put in hundreds of thousands of hours of practice, playing 8 hours a day to become better musicians, better singers, and better performers before people began to refer to them as geniuses. Malcolm Gladwell also wrote about Wilma Rudolph, who was paralyzed as a child, but put in thousands and thousands of hours of practice to go on and win 3 Olympic gold medals in track and field. Now you should understand research has proven that effort, strategies, and getting help from others really does pay off, because these things help our brain strengthen just like they help our muscles get stronger. Now, let's look at some scientific experiments that prove the brain can grow stronger just like a muscle. Scientists at UC Berkeley took a group of twin rats and split the pairs in half, making 2 groups. They put one group in an empty cage with just food and water, and the other group was put in a rich environment with puzzles, toys, and exercise equipment. After some time, they took the rats out and weighed their brains and discovered that the rats who were in the cages with all the extra equipment actually had 10% heavier brains. What do you think happened? If you answered something like, all the thinking, practice, and exercise the rats got in the cage with all the extras increased the connections in their brain so their brain grew stronger, well then, you're on the right track. Well, this is great for rats, but what about for us humans? Do our brains also grow? Researchers carried out a famous study with London cab drivers by measuring the area of the brain that remembers information about places. In London, would-be taxi drivers have to learn 320 routes within a 6-mile radius, which covers over 25,000 streets and 20,000 landmarks and places of interest. Dozens of trainee drivers had MRI scans before and after they acquired what's called the knowledge, which can take between 2 and 4 years to complete. Compared to other people, the cab driver's area of the brain responsible for memory tasks was much bigger. This shows that learning and practicing this skill made that area of the brain grow stronger. Phineas Gage was very successful as a railroad worker in 1848. He worked quickly, was patient, planned ahead, and very good at business. All of this changed one day when an accidental gunpowder explosion sent a large iron spike through the front of his face and through the frontal lobe of his brain. Fortunately, he didn't die and his injury healed pretty quickly, but he was left without most of the frontal lobe in his brain. Since the frontal lobe controls things like planning ahead and self-control, he would insult people, would say things that were mean, and he did not have any patience. Through practice, help from doctors, and developing new strategies, he formed new connections in his brain and created new pathways, even though his frontal lobe never grew back. It took a long time, but he grew his self-control pathways. He no longer had angry outbursts. He was no longer mean to people, and he was able to have more patience. This shows that learning and practicing can even help us change our personality for the better. The human brain can grow stronger and improve. Now, let's have a brief review of the growth mindset. Remember, this belief is called the growth mindset. It's the belief that your basic qualities and abilities, like intelligence, personal characteristics, and talent, are things that you can fundamentally change and improve. Through effort, the right strategies, and getting help from others, you can achieve more than you thought you ever could. After learning about the importance of having a growth mindset, sometimes a young person will say, "Hey, I listened to what you said and tried really hard, and I still didn't succeed." You need to understand that just putting out a lot of effort doesn't always do it. You can flap your arms all you want, but you're never going to fly. The trick is to put in the effort, add the right strategies, and look to get help from others. It's when you put all three of these together that you're on your way toward success. Mindset does matter. Your mindset can affect many parts of your life, including intelligence, physical ability and talent, and it can even affect your personality. Scientific research, like the brain exercises for the rats, proves that you can grow your brain to become better at math, reading, writing, and any other academic area. The thousands of hours of effort and practice that Wilma Rudolph put in to overcome childhood paralysis and win 3 Olympic gold medals proves that you can grow your brain to improve your physical abilities and talent. The story of Phineas Gage proves that you can grow your brain to even improve your mood, personality, and overall outlook on life. The thousands of hours that the Beatles practiced to improve their musical knowledge and ability is an example of how you can grow your brain to improve both your intelligence and your physical abilities and talents at the same time. Now, let's review what we know about grit. What is grit? Grit's a combination of persistence and resilience. What do you remember about persistence? That's when you keep trying when you face challenges and stay focused on the challenge without allowing yourself to get distracted. And what do you remember about resilience? Resilience is when you show toughness when you get knocked down by challenges, and you bounce back and keep trying until you complete the challenge. Challenges are difficult. It usually doesn't feel good to struggle. It takes grit to stick with challenges you face. It takes grit to bounce back and keep trying when challenges knock you down and you fail over and over again. Here's an inspirational video that shows a person who faces a challenge, gets knocked down, and gets back up to face the challenge again until she succeeds.
The 600-meter underway. Heather Dornard in Minnesota finished second in this event a year ago. She was in lane 4.
And Dornan is probably going to be your favorite. She actually won the NCAA championships in 2006 in the 800, but she only won one Big Ten championship in the 2 years.
3 laps in this event, 600 meters, 3 times around the 200-meter track here at the field house.
What a bold move by Fawn. She's looking very confident, and the Penn State runner is just running amazing today. She did win her heat in the 400, but ended up taking 4th overall.
That's Fawn Dorr moving into the lead, a sophomore from Penn State. Dornarden running second.
Dornan last year scored 23 points for the Golden Gophers in their Big Ten championship, so they're really relying on getting a lot of points from her this weekend, and she's just coming by Fawn Dorr now in the home stretch, heading into the bell lap. Oh, down.
Dornarden falling down, gets up quickly, but that's going to cost her. Lucky she wasn't injured.
Her teammate just went to the front, though, so they may be able to recover from that. And Dornarden is flying down the backstretch.
She is catching up.
She is going to catch Fawn Dorr, and she may catch the leaders.
Wow.
She's got Fawn.
This is a gutsy effort by Dornarden. Can she pull it off? She's moved into third. Dornarden coming down the stretch from the outside. Dornarden coming on strong. Dornarden all the way. Dornarden. Yes, she did it. Wow, unbelievable.
That is amazing. To fall in a 600, I mean, this is basically a sprint. I mean, this is an extended 400, basically. To fall with 200 meters to go and get up and win, that is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
That's one of the most exciting things I've seen. Here's the fall.
Oh, she trips on Fawn's shoe.
It looked like Fawn just clipped her heel, and she went down just before the bell lap.
Fawn Dorr had to high hurdler to avoid a collision.
And she is powering down this home stretch, just doing everything she can to win this heat.
Heather Dornarden showed grit, both perseverance and resilience in this race. Many people would have given up, but not Heather. To be successful, you have to stick to your goals and bounce back from obstacles. Heather did both and was amazingly successful. So, let's review. You've learned that the brain thinks, grows, and improves. Your growth mindset tells you that through effort and the right strategies and getting help from others, you can achieve more than you thought you ever could. Showing grit helps you to keep trying in the face of challenges and to keep going after setbacks, turning a challenge into new learning. Your brain is like a muscle, and therefore you can strengthen your brain like you strengthen your muscles. Continuously challenging your muscles by lifting heavier and heavier weights, combined with increased repetitions, helps your muscles to grow and you get stronger. Continuously challenging your brain through the process of learning helps your brain increase the number of synaptic connections. With continued effort, the right strategies, and help from your teachers, coaches, and others, these connections grow stronger and faster, and you get smarter. In our next lesson, we'll continue to learn more about the growth mindset, grit, and growing the strength of your brain like you grow muscles. So remember, as you go through the next week, use your growth mindset and your grit and go out there and be successful.